You know, the system of naming in the past has had significance. Today, people just look in a book, get a name, and so on. But in ancient times, and especially as reflected in the Bible, names meant character, so that the only way one could determine the future and the character of an infant had to be through inspiration. So it is clear that God helped parents name their children. Of course, his son, Jesus. Now, you got to remember that Jesus was in existence before he was born in Bethlehem. He's the one that did all interaction with human beings in the Bible. When God met Moses in the burning bush, that was Jesus. Okay, he's the one that created the world, and so on. So it's just that the understanding is that he had to be born as a child to come and die. God can't die, so he had to take a human form to die for the sins of man, etc. But with him, he had several names. Christ was one of the names, Emmanuel, Jesus, and so on. But Jesus meant Savior. So when you call the name Jesus, you're calling on his saving, salvific nature. And Emmanuel was God with us. And the Messiah meant the Anointed One. Now, also we have with Abraham. Abraham was promised that his descendants are going to be like the stars of heaven. And at 80, whatever, he had no children as yet. And Sarah apparently was barren. And they had this lament. God says this is going to happen. With me, I would believe and just wait. But they felt like they will create their own little, stars of heaven drama. So Sarah gave Abraham her servant, Sarah, Hagar, the Egyptian, to have the child or the children. And when she was conceived, Hagar, apparently some kind of a relationship started happening with them, mal relationship, bad relationship started happening between Sarah and Hagar, because she can conceive and she could conceive. You know, there's a woman's thing, all right? So Hagar was forced to leave, and when she was out in the desert, an angel came and intercepted her and had a conversation with her. She said, look, I know that you're pregnant, and this child, his name will be Ishmael. And then eventually told her, look, go back to Sarai and humble yourself. She is your boss, and, go back there. We know eventually that she had to leave with the child and this and that and whatever, but the bottom line is that the angel gave her that name. Now, when the child was born, Abraham said, we'll call his name Ishmael. Now, I'm not sure how he got that name. Whether Hagar explained to him the experience and the name and so on, or whether God gave him some fresh inspiration. But this name, Ishmael, was a God-given name. And it meant indomitable. Because it says that he's going to be a wild man and nobody will be able to dominate him. So that's the whole deal with names. Now, we have President Obama. And his father's name was Barack, and his name is Barack. And I think Mubarak, I don't know if you could say Mubarak was kind of same Barack, whatever, but Mubarak, he was the president of Egypt. And Obama's father, he was a big scholar. He came from obscurity, and he developed himself. He went to Harvard and so on. I don't know why he didn't go to London, because he came out of Africa, British, I suspect a British colony and so on. But he named his boy Barack, and Barack too ended up at Harvard. He ended up being brilliant, persuasive, logical, and ended up being the president of the States. Now, I'm saying this, that in Spanish, there are many children that are called Jesus, and spelled like Jesus, but I'm not sure if it means Jesus or whatever, or that's the way Jesus is pronounced in Spanish. But I've never tracked any of the Jesus to see whether they have that salvific in a human way, that nature. So if you go ahead and you name your kids like Ishmael and Barak and Jesus and Emmanuel and the Messiah and so on, be careful whether they will be able to fulfill that sort of thing. So recently the stats show that 8% of parents were dissatisfied with the name of their children. Now, I'm not sure what they were trying to achieve or where they got the name from, etc. But it's hard for parents to project down the road what type of a life or how a child will develop so as to give him the right name. You have to have God doing that. And so many people now aren't checking books, and the people that wrote that book might be psychics. I don't know. And then folks in kind of funny, philosophies and so forth, psychics, Ouija board and all that. So I'm not sure if they're going to be able to come up with a name that will, if they're in touch with God, who will give them a name that would mean something down the road. My name is Derek, and I'm disgusting. I was a real bad child growing up. My neighbors predicted that I might have gone to jail and be executed, and so I was so bad. I'd beat anybody. You want to fight, no problem. But I wasn't necessarily a bully, all right? But I just like to rumble, man. The guys my age, they were no match. I wanted to take on the bigger brothers, sometimes the father and so on. It never happened because I'm sure I might have gone beyond my capacity. So I understand from the president of my college that there was another Derek Morris from Barbados, and he was the same kind of thing. So I'm not sure whether my mom, had that inspiration from God to give me this name that meant, trouble. However, I haven't been to jail. I haven't done a crime to be sentenced to jail. The cops picked me up and put me in jail, but, it's like time served and all that stuff. It's not that I'm, crazy and want to go there and create problems. So that parents understand this, that you don't know the future and you can't predict how a child will develop. So you need to talk to God and let him give you the right name. And why change it? I mean, names don't have no significance. We don't expect any of these kids to be another Barack. So if you name a child Barack, I don't expect him to be president. How many Baracks are going to be presidents? And how many more Ishmael's going to be, this great leader of the wild men and so on. So naming is very special, but don't be distraught if the name doesn't mean much.